All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking something literally every single one of us has experienced at some point, yet very few of us actually understand. We're talking about why darkness triggers such a deep, instinctive, ancient fear. We're going to map out exactly how millions of years of human evolution are still silently pulling the strings of your nervous system every single time the sun goes down.
Picture this. You walk into a room you've known your entire life. Maybe it's your own living room, right? Now, imagine killing the lights, just standing there in the pitch black. If you wait just a few seconds, something really interesting happens. Your imagination kicks into overdrive. Every tiny creak of the house feels noticeably louder. Every fuzzy shadow you can vaguely make out seems to suddenly come alive. Logically, you know for a fact there's absolutely nothing there, but your heart starts beating faster anyway.
So what is actually going on here? We really have to ask ourselves why this totally everyday occurrence triggers fear in billions of people, even when we're sitting inside the safest, most secure homes on the planet. Well, the answer isn't from some horror movie or supernatural ghost story. It's actually hardwired deep inside your brain. It's a survival mechanism that is literally millions of years older than civilization itself.
The ancient reality, before electricity.
Think about it like this. For almost all of human history, the night belonged to something else entirely, and it highlighted our single greatest vulnerability. See, during the daylight, human senses were a superpower. Our ancestors relied on sight way more than almost any other sense to spot food, recognize faces, and spot danger from miles away. But the second the sun disappeared, predators had the upper hand. Ancient predators evolved absolutely exceptional night vision, highly sensitive hearing, and the ability to track movement in almost total darkness. Losing our vision at night meant losing our ultimate survival tool. Suddenly, every single sound was a threat.
Because we just couldn't compete with the senses of these nocturnal hunters, the night turned familiar, safe landscapes into zones of absolute uncertainty and extreme danger. I mean, these were the true kings of the night. Lions, leopards, hyenas, wolves, massive snakes, owls. While early humans were just stumbling around blindly in the dark, these animals became even more lethal. The darkness was literally their hunting ground, and we were essentially walking around blindfolded.
So the absolutely crucial point here is how our ancestors adapted to survive this massive disadvantage. Since we couldn't outsee or outhear them, we had to outthink them. Early humans stayed together in tight groups. They figured out how to build fires to create these small pockets of visibility, and they took turns keeping watch while the others slept. Now, here's the evolutionary catch. Those who ignored the darkness, the ones who weren't extremely cautious or, let's be honest, slightly paranoid about the shadows, well, they simply didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. Over thousands and thousands of generations, extreme caution after sunset became deeply, permanently baked right into human DNA.
The psychological mechanism, your brain hates uncertainty.
Here is a super fascinating psychological twist. Your brain doesn't actually fear the darkness itself. No, it fears what the darkness hides. When visual information is suddenly cut off because the lights are out, your brain flat out refuses to just accept a blank slate. Instead, it desperately scrambles to fill in the blanks. Psychologists call this coping mechanism pattern recognition. It's essentially your brain trying to create meaningful mental pictures out of completely unknown shadows.
You've totally experienced this. It's exactly why a simple jacket hanging on a chair suddenly looks exactly like a person standing in the corner of your bedroom. Or why a tree branch brushing against the window becomes a figure watching you. Or why a totally harmless settling sound downstairs instantly becomes an imagined intruder. Your brain is taking fuzzy, incomplete data from the dark and running it straight through a threat detection filter, desperately trying to recognize a pattern before it's too late.
And honestly, you should really thank your brain for this. From an evolutionary standpoint, your brain would much rather be wrong occasionally than completely ignore genuine danger. Just think about the math here for a second. If your brain creates a false alarm over a jacket on a chair, what's the cost? A slightly elevated heart rate. But if your brain ignores a shadow that actually turns out to be a leopard, yeah, that's game over. Being wrong occasionally was a vastly safer survival strategy than just kicking back and being perpetually relaxed in the dark.
The evolution of fear, from childhood to adulthood.
Now, it's pretty wild how this deeply wired fear actually develops in us. Did you know newborn babies don't actually fear the dark? It's true. The fear usually pops up a little later as a child's imagination starts to really develop. Without enough real-world experience, developing imaginations just fill that dark void with monsters, ghosts, or unknown creatures. But here's the thing. As we grow into adults, the fear of the unknown void doesn't just magically vanish.
the monsters just change. That imagined boogeyman gets replaced by very real-world worries. Burglars, looming credit card bills, or just the anticipation of bad news. The uncertainty of the dark becomes this blank canvas for our adult anxieties. Basically, our fears just grow up right alongside us.
The shift in power, how fire changed humanity.
The mastery of fire was, without a doubt, one of humanity's greatest turning points. Yes, it provided warmth and let us cook food, but for our purposes here, its real superpower was acting as a massive shield against predators. Most importantly, it extended the day. For the very first time, families could actually gather around flames to eat, plan, and teach long after the sun went down. Darkness no longer belonged entirely to the things trying to eat us. Humans had successfully claimed a small, flickering circle of light. In fact, plenty of anthropologists believe that the rich human tradition of storytelling was born right there, sitting around those nighttime campfires.
You know, you could easily make the argument that civilization itself was sparked by this simple, stubborn refusal to let the uncertainty of the night defeat us. That tiny circle of light pushed back the terrifying unknown, giving early humans the space to build communities, share knowledge, and eventually build the entire modern world we know today.
The modern reflection. Ancient brain, modern world.
Now fast forward to today. The environment has totally changed, but our brains, they really haven't caught up. On one hand, you've got incredible modern technology. You can flood an entire room with light with the literal flick of a switch. You've got high-powered flashlights on your phone and HD security cameras watching your driveway while you sleep. But on the other hand, you have biological reality. Evolution works incredibly slowly, while technology changes in the blink of an eye. So, when you hesitate for just a second before walking into a dark basement, it's not because a lion is actually down there waiting for you. It's because your nervous system is still running on survival software built for a highly dangerous world that vanished thousands of years ago.
So, the next time your pulse quickens in a dark hallway or you find yourself double-checking the shadows in your room at 2 a.m., I want you to remember this. Darkness itself has never been the enemy, uncertainty is. You aren't just being silly or irrational, you are simply listening to a biological message passed down from the very ancestors who survived because they expected danger way before they could actually see it. That ancient warning system kept humanity alive. So when you switch off the lights tonight, embrace that tiny little spike of fear. You're standing inside one of the oldest survival instincts the human mind has ever evolved. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. But before you go, I want you to ask yourself, if your brain is still tricking you about harmless shadows in the dark, what else in your modern life is your ancient biology completely lying to you about?